Another fun little irony in Harold and Maude was Maude's statement about morality, which has always stood out to me. She says, "Vice, virtue, it's best not to be too moral. You cheat yourself out of so much life. Aim above morality. If you apply that to life, then you are bound to live it fully," she says. Think about that, how strange that is. I mean, the reason it's ironic to me is because morality is usually the thing you're supposed to shoot for. That's the height. That's it. That's the tip top to be a moral person. But she's saying aim above morality. What is that? What's going on with aim above morality? I'm going to theorize about it. You have your own theories, but here's the way I theorize about this. Remember, a lot of this analysis is just doing theory. Morality to me implies something like, say, the 10 Commandments. These 10 Commandments say the things you're supposed to do, but did you ever notice that you can find loopholes in those things? When you have a list of 10 things, you've narrowed down and you automatically leave out a lot of things. Like, it doesn't say in the 10 Commandments, don't push someone down the stairs, right? So I mean, that sounds like a ridiculous example, but somebody who's looking for loopholes could say, technically, it doesn't say I can't push somebody down the stairs. Even if you interpret one of the commandments as being nice to people, it doesn't say that. And you look for those loopholes. It's kind of like a syllabus. When I give out a syllabus in class, I call it the loophole finder. Because people right away look for, what do I have to do in this class? And what's the least I can do? What can I get away with? You can't cover everything. You can't write an endless document covering every possibility and every situation and every factor. So by nature, it's limited, but it makes you like go, I'm obeying the syllabus, therefore I'm okay. Kind of like a moral code. I'm obeying this moral code. And it doesn't require you to look at yourself and ask yourself hard questions about your choices and situational things that aren't covered technically by that moral code. How do you behave in those situations? By the way, notice how miserably bored and like droning the religious people are in Harold and Maude, the people that do the funerals and stuff. Like, there's that one funeral where they're in the big church. If you listen to the preacher talking, he's talking about the joy of everlasting life and the joy in the Lord, but he's talking about it like this. I know it's a funeral, but still, it's that idea of like, yes, we got to be very religious, very moral. It's also ironic because Christians are supposed to be filled with joy and have the key to the afterlife. So from my perspective, again, theory, I don't think the filmmaker's reason for portraying religion this way was the same as, say, Flannery O'Connor's reason, where she was trying to shock you into believing. Hal Ashby, the director, and Colin Higgins, the writer of Harold and Maude, they were more critical of religion. They would not want you to choose religion. Think about that exaggerated priest talking about them having sex, and he gets... If you're a person who is of the Catholic faith, you probably didn't appreciate that easy sort of stereotype of the creepy priest. But I think they were doing that on purpose, as we'll see when we talk about satire. Let's talk about symbolism. Remember, sometimes a filmmaker, in this case filmmaker or writer, doesn't necessarily plan for something to be symbolic, but as O'Connor said, it takes on symbolic meaning as the story unfolds, as you're writing it or telling it. And I think of the marching band. If you remember, when they go out of that funeral in the church, they're carrying this, it's all very somber, the people are mumbling, about God and stuff. And then they go out, and what's happening outside as they're loading this dead person into the hearse? A marching band comes by. And of course, instead of stopping playing, because there's a funeral, for some reason they just keep playing. It always seemed bizarre to me, but as I think it over and try to analyze it, I'm like, I noticed this was the first time that Harold and Maude actually spoke. They had seen each other at a couple of funerals. But notice this is the first time they actually met each other and interacted. And so you have this clash of Maude represented by the marching band, in this theory of mine, and Harold represented by the dour funeral. And you have this interesting clash of these two ways of being, the marching band, da 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 da, and the funeral. And you have Maude and you have Harold. So I don't know if they sat in a room and thought of that when they were brainstorming the script, or if it was in the original. I don't know. It's just my theory, and it helps me to understand the movie a bit more because it reminds me of the way Harold and Maude interact, and I find that very interesting. And remember, Harold, they kind of role reverse by the end of the movie, because what is Harold doing after he sends his car, which I think is like symbolic of his obsession with death? He sends that car over the cliff, and he's making music, which Maude was like, everybody needs to play music. So she's gone on, she's in that hearse, so to speak, and Harold is now playing music like the marching band by the end of the movie. So it's an interesting, ironic reversal there. Speaking of theorizing, let's do some literary theory. Let's do a little psychoanalytic criticism. Think about Harold and his mom.
Well, now, directly after dinner, I want you to go straight to bed. Harold's always been a very delicate child. Even as a baby, he seemed totally prone to every possible kind of illness. Harold, dear, eat up your beets. I remember once in Tokyo, I had to call the embassy for a doctor.
And think about Maude as a mother figure. You remember Harold talking about the reason he fakes these suicides is because the one time his mother showed actual concern and affection for him in his eyes was when she thought he was dead. And so the way I took that is he stages these elaborate suicides because he wants that feeling of her concern for him. I'm psychoanalyzing Harold here.
Decided then that I enjoyed being dead.
I understand.
You think about him being with Maude as a way of getting affection from a mother figure. So is that oversimplified? Perhaps. But, psychologists often talk about that our relationships with our parents growing up kind of have a lot to do with our romantic relationships later in life, either reacting against what we grew up with or gravitating toward it. It's very complex. Notice the sculpture when Harold is in Maude's railroad car apartment. She has that sculpture and she tells him to feel it. Now, it's very vaginal, the opening and everything, and he's like putting his hands on it. You notice he is kind of like, wow, I not know what to think here.
What do you think?
I like this.
Oh, no. Really get close and reach in and feel. Oh, there's my kettle. Stroke, palm, caress, explore. Here we are, oat straw tea and ginger pie.
But he tries to put his head through it, and he can't quite fit. Now, I see this as symbolic of him sort of trying to enter into his relationship with his mother through this inappropriate relationship according to society standards. He's trying to re-enter this feeling he got from his mother that from way back, so almost like when he was born. So it's almost like, not to be too crude about it, but trying to re-enter the birth canal through Maude to get back to this state of blissful motherhood that he wants to come back to. I don't know. I'm not saying that's what they meant or that I'm right. Remember, that's not the point. But I'm thinking in terms of psychoanalysis. What makes Harold tick?